Boom, boom, boom. Looks like we got some people tuning in. Gonna wait a few moments, guys. Got some people from my YouTube tuning in. Awesome. Feels like it's been forever since I've done a YouTube and Facebook Live, but it was last month. What's up, guys? So we're gonna wait a minute or so, an additional minute or two. But I wanted to ask if the audio on your end sounds good. Just give me a comment below that it's all good to go, and get things rolling here shortly. Got some good things for you guys. Talking about some events that just happened the last several weeks. Got some events coming up. Some new items that just came out from a few of my sponsors that I want to talk about, and some setup things. So awesome. So yeah, we're gonna get things rolling. If you guys have any questions that you want to hear eventually in this video, please go ahead in the comments, ask it now, and I can get to it down a little bit once I get past kind of this introduction part. I've gotten a few messages online talking about some setup sheets. We'll kind of get to. Got some people in the house. What's up, Jim, Jordan, Ricky, Charlie, John, Matthew, Clay, Dennis in the house, Mitch, AJ. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Always a pleasure seeing you guys on the live feed. So yeah, so we're here. We're gonna get things rolling. Got some good viewers. Pretty excited to do this today, and was gonna do one on two or 3 days ago, but I ended up going on a trip to Flagstaff here in Arizona. Never really been out there before. It's been years since I've been out there. My dad took me out there snowboarding a long time ago, but went with some friends here in Phoenix, Tanner Denny and Tanner Steve, some guys that we normally race with, 8 scale, 10 scale. So it's cool to get out, check out the cool views out there, and check out the food and the coffee. So basically we're going to be talking about some of the past events, which we were at the E-Buggy and E-Truggy Aurora Nationals. Definitely some crazy stuff happened from that weekend. I had some ups and downs. I first got there and my cars were pretty awesome. I really didn't have any complaints. And then the track started to kind of evolve a little bit. We were doing a lot of diff oil stuff, changing the diff oils. Both my cars kind of felt a little funky after the second day of practice. I couldn't really figure it out. I thought maybe it was the tires, or just the track. The track was also not very consistent, but I didn't have that great of results at that weekend, but I learned some stuff that I needed to keep an eye out on. As far as the team goes, Lee Sester had an awesome showing. Pretty much running a generic setup that we all kind of worked off of, based, which is also posted on rc10.com. So it was cool to see some of the crew having some success, and obviously it was awesome to see Ryan win both on JConcepts, and definitely on a roll here this year. So definitely back to the drawing board for us, and some things need to work on. But I ended up staying an additional week after in Florida. We did some private testing at a track to get prepared for the Roar 10 scale nationals. I did a lot of running with 4-wheel drive buggy, 2-wheel drive buggy from my generic setup. So kind of can show you my buggy. We did a lot of tuning with kind of the B6.3 parts. This is pretty much my car right off the track. Obviously, I don't have tires or a wing on it, but I kind of wanted to show you a little bit of kind of the update stuff that I feel like some of you guys that are watching that race to 10 scale electric cars, especially the B6.3, and maybe even if you're not an associated fan that are watching, that you're just a fan of just watching the live feeds, the body stuff that I was testing, it was very, very crucial in my opinion as far as how the car handled. Normally, Old Faithful, the JConcepts F2 body, definitely had my fair share of results with this. This is the P2 JConcept body. This is actually the body I won the worlds with in Slovakia. We consider this a high downforce body, which normally, before we went to the worlds in Slovakia, it was for, I use this like as a body for like slick tracks where it's super edgy and hard to drive. This kind of sucks the car down and just keeps it stuck to the track. And it really got me thinking after the worlds in Slovakia. Obviously, it's been a couple years now since then, but I kind of wanted to bring it back a little bit and try it at some of these tracks that we race at. And I really think it might make a pretty big wave, that I really think this body might be the new standard in two-wheel drive buggy. It's kind of a big statement, even though that the F2 has pretty much been the pretty big standard. I know a lot of people have been saying that they like the kit body that comes in associated vehicles, and that's fine. That's also considered a higher downforce body. But from JConcepts, we offer the P2. And I really think what does it for this body is the fin that goes all the way back to the rear shock tower. As you can see, there are these little scoops in the back that really help. And what I noticed when I was driving with this body at the test track we were racing at or practicing at was the off-power stability with steering and traction. The balance was significantly higher. And I feel like for someone like myself or Ryan Mayfield or, Cavallari, Dustin Evans, Jared Tebow, Ty Tessman, I feel like we can kind of make things work. And I've been hearing from people that, race locally that aren't on our scale of racing that feel like, they can run anything. They can put anything on their car and it'll work. And I think that definitely is an unfair statement. I think that everything matters. We're looking for 0.5% to 1% at all these events. It sounds like a little, but 0.5% to 1% is a huge amount for us on the track. And for you guys, if you guys are looking, I think we're looking for 0.5% to 1%, and then I feel like people that are doing it on local basis, I feel like there is more room to gain than there is to lose. And I feel like stuff like the body handling, figuring out the tires, I feel like that stuff is huge. And I'm recommending for you guys to maybe venture out, if you haven't already, trying the bodies. I mean, it's super easy. If you have a buddy that you can be on the driver's stand and just swap bodies and just try them back to back, try them, back to back multiple times, and look at the lap times, and you'll definitely notice some differences off power and on power, and especially with steering. So I'm definitely going to be committing to this body for the next several events going further. Obviously, it depends on the tracks. Like for some reason, when I go to OCRC, I feel like the times that I've tried a different body, I don't believe I actually specifically ran the P2 body, but the F2 always seems to work there. And I think the F2 body is a very neutral body for all these tracks. But for how these tracks are escalating and the way the grip's going and how the car is being set up. I think the body and tires are being in the wing is super critical. So that was my little rant about the bodies, but kind of wanted to also talk about the 0.3, the B6.3 parts that come in the kit. The last definitely month or two, I've been back and forth between the long arm stuff and the wide pivot and short arms, which just comes in the B6.3 dirt car. And I think, well, we got a fly in here. I think for sure, out of the box, the car is dramatically better set up than the 0.2 car that was released. But one thing you got to keep in mind that I feel like they were asking is when we had the long arm stuff, I think people wanted to run that because of how easy it was to drive and how we have like literally a fly in here and I'm like going crazy. I think when people were running the long arm stuff, they felt like it was really easy to drive. It had a lot of more traction. And I feel like I really committed to something with the 0.3 stuff this past event or the past testing session that I had over last week and a half ago. So I was running a longer rear link. I'm running the middle camber link on the inner with 2 millimeters. And then on the outer, I am running no washers on the length. And then 1 millimeter on the height for the camber link. So it's a little bit longer than normal. I feel like with the rear end, the short arm, the super wide pivot, it does make it dramatically stiffer and more rigid. So it's definitely more common with this rear end to run a softer rear spring than you would with your previous car. If you run the long arm, I was normally running white rear springs with the long arm. And then depending on the traction and so forth, you can choose accordingly. But I wouldn't be surprised if you guys that are building this car, you can easily run a green rear spring, V1 green rear spring. And then if it's really, really high bite and there's a lot of traction, the car's making good grip, then you can go up in a little bit stiffer spring. I've heard some of our team guys really liking the Kyosho white rear spring on the back of the car. So that's kind of like the stuff that we've been kind of working with the rear end. One thing also I kind of wanted to bring up is the chassis length. I've been asked thousands of times what chassis length to run. They're not sure if they want to run the long or the short. The dirt car obviously comes with the short chassis. And I've always stuck with the short. I've had great results. My teammates have ran the long. They also have had good results. I really think for you guys, I've said it before, the longer chassis is definitely harder to drive. It definitely creates less traction all around. It is more inconsistent given with the traction that the track has. So if the track is a little bit inconsistent with traction with like dust and so forth, the short chassis is just going to be better all around. And then of course with the track size, like at CRC, I ran the short chassis. That's the biggest track in the United States as far as 10 scale goes. So I ran the short chassis, and Drayden Stubbs was on the short chassis. I believe he got, I won. I got first. Drayden got second. Dakota got, Dakota got second. Drayden got third. So I believe the Losi car is pretty short also. So the podium was short chassis, so to speak, is kind of how I was looking at it. But to add to that, you can also get a couple of different adjustments in between or even shorter. So on the back of my car, I have the shim behind the arm, which actually makes the car shorter. And that means it can mean a couple of different things. The track that I was testing at, the track had a lot of traction, but the front end was really hard to drive. I felt like and Supercross, like the rider was flying over the handlebars. And I've learned working with Kurt Wanger, one of our engineers at Associated, that maybe you can shift the arms forward to make it shorter. What that does, it actually moves the arm forward but shifts the weight back. And that took a lot of weight transfer off the front and threw it towards the rear tires, which created more traction and less front traction. So if you were to have a long chassis, in my opinion, the feeling that I had would have been worse. Definitely a fine balance. For instance, I did the same thing to my forward drive. I normally run the arms long, like the wheelbase long, and I put the shim behind the arm to make it shorter, and the steering was so much smoother. It helped the car rebalance out. So definitely to keep that in mind when you guys are out there running. You know, if you feel like your car's hard to drive, it's too much steering, it's oversteering, just try moving your hubs forward or your arms forward. That's a good, like, quick adjustment. So that's kind of like the big things that I'm kind of finding. You know, for those who are kind of tuning in, we're kind of talking about the 0.3 rear end. You know, a lot of people, you know, I was talking to Brent about how people are explaining, should I run the 0.2 rear end or the 0.3? To me, that is not how I think we should go about going about the determination of the old versus the new. You can get, that's why we designed it the way we did. The rear pivot, you can get the old pivot wide rear end. So we made the parts so you can do that. So you don't have to change the blocks or anything. You can keep the blocks, you can keep the tower, you can get everything the same to run the long rear arm. That we did that for a reason, because it is an option part. It's not that it's considered the 0.2 rear end or the 0.3. Just the 0.3 car comes with what we think is the best out of the box, which is really the wide pivot and the short arm for the customers and for the majority of the tracks that we race at. And I do believe that it has been the best for the all-around track. So kind of work way to the front. I can take the body off. So for those who are just kind of tuning in now, we had a little body discussion, the P2 and the F2. So that's just the standard one that we typically run. I've been working with this body, and I think it actually might be the new standard. It was hard for me to say that, but I was telling Jason, I'm like, this body is badass. I like the way it handles around the track. It's very, very stable and feels really neutral as far as having the most amount of traction, the better, good steering feel, and you know, jumping and handling is really good. So I feel like when people drive like RC cars in general, they're more the customers, I feel like that they're new and they don't know what good feels like. So I've been noticing when people have issues with like setup feeling or going around the track, a lot of the problems actually comes from off power sections. You're going into the turn, you're off power, you turn the wheel, and then you feel like you can get back on the gas, then that's actually a problem. I feel like this body really helps with that, those kind of sectors of going around. So this is called the P2 body from JConcepts. For those who have purchased the 0.3 car, and you know, the kit body that comes with the car, that is also considered a high downforce body, I believe. And I actually have a kit right here that I got to build. And so for those who want to just try something out first, you can just try the kit body. But highly recommend, if you're a JConcept fan or a fan of just running a different body from the kit, definitely check out the P2. We'll move on from that. But the front end stuff, kind of wanted to show you a little bit about what's going on. Been hearing a lot of people talking about raising the bell cranks. Yes, that is something that I do. I raise them 3 millimeters. You have to make some clearance on the top deck. So there might be some people at your local track that has done that. So you can kind of ask some questions. It is a little bit of I would say more for an experienced RC car enthusiast as far as being good with a Dremel. But yeah, when you raise the bell cranks, it definitely makes some clearance issues for the top of the top deck. So you got to make some clearance in there. But I'm running 2.5. You don't need to raise it 3 millimeters if you're running the 2.5 caster. I think you can get away with running it with like 1 or 2 millimeters higher. But there was a point in time where I was running 25 kick up and 0 caster. So that's why I raised it so much, to get the bump steer, just to get the bump steer right. Then this fly is like really bothering me, and it's kind of like taking up my attention. I'm sure you guys got to be laughing right now, but yeah. So I'm running 25 and 2.5 at the moment. I run 2 bump steer out here, especially if you raise it with 3 millimeter. So I run the ESC weight plate. As of lately, I've been running the blue front spring, V1 blue front spring, which is what I've been liking. And the +1 steering plates, these are the new ones that we just released, which I've been really liking as far as the smooth steering for the high traction tracks. The HT steering plates is what we call them. So aluminum bulkhead as always. Nothing's really changed much with that sense. So yeah, other than that, we're pretty much kind of the same that we've been for a while. And the tour drive has been pretty awesome everywhere. For those who are running the 25 and 0 caster, I definitely highly recommend you guys trying the 2.5 caster, and you'll have to make some adjustments with your bump steer, which is why I have the washers out there. The 25 and 0, I definitely would say, is much harder to drive than normal, and I think you can use more wheel input the more caster you put in. So definitely keep an eye on that when you guys are out there running. So yeah, I think other than that, we're kind of been pretty standard of what we've been looking at. Gray, normally the front spring's gray, V1 gray. I've been running the V2 blue, or V1 blues. It's been a good balance. It kind of helps with the steering, especially in the super high grip tracks. So been pretty awesome. But I do have some new things I wanted to show you guys that I got from my sponsors. I'm going to be putting it in my cars for the Nationals. Is a new servo from Savox. It's a shorty servo. I have like the box right here talking about. It's the Savox SB2262SG. This is the Black Edition Monster. This is the same kind of category servo that I run in my 8-scale cars, the Monster kind of brand. But this is the shorty, like 10-scale version. This servo has more torque and quicker speed than the servo that I traditionally run. And not to mention, it's stronger by a lot. And what I've been noticing a bunch for the tracks that we race at with a super high grip tracks and the slick tires that we run, there's so much demand in the steering input of, so to speak, called the holding power. When you're turning your steering wheel and the car actually trying to go that direction, because the tires get a feedback from the traction that they're getting from the track. It's going through flexing the servo and going through, transferring all the energy through the arms of the suspension through the servo, and that's what this is called, the holding power, which really is called torque for that matter. The speed's pretty comparable. It's a little bit, or it's actually the same. It's 0.08 speed. at 7.4 volts. I run my servos at 6 volts on my speed control for the BEC voltage. And I'm going to be going through all these questions too, if you guys have any questions on all this. But definitely check out the servo. I know if you guys are really drivers, I'm not sure if they have something that's this size. The weight is actually, since it's an aluminum case, it is on the heavier side for the quote unquote shorty servo, but it does weigh the same as the big servo that we offer. So I normally run the 1267 servo in my two-wheel drive and in my four-wheel drive. Let me just confirm that. Yeah, the 1267 big servo. You can see as far as the size, I mean, you have so much more room if you use this servo. And I'm probably going to put this one in my four-wheel drive first because this will add, it's a little bit lighter than the normal servos, which will save weight on my B74, which is, I would say the B74 is a little bit more on the heavier side, which is why I run the plastic gears and all the diffs, especially if you're running a center diff. This will definitely help a ton. And this will add a lot more room in the passenger side where the servo sits, so I can put my transponder there nicely. The wiring and everything will look much cleaner. I even saw, actually, the person that showed me this was my teammate Ryan Cavallari from Savox. He put this in his four-wheel drive car, and his first time out with it was at the JConcepts INS. He actually ended up winning the four-wheel drive class. So I ended up ordering one, and I'm going to be putting it in my four-wheel drive right now, which I'm going to go grab. I don't have any turnbuckles on it yet, but I kind of just built like the roller part. As you can see, I got the Protect carbon side rails. This thing's pretty decked out. I'm going to be running it this weekend at Hobby Action. So I got all of the carbon parts that Associated offers for this car, which was another conversation that we wanted to bring up, was talking about all the parts. I kind of briefly talked about in my last video with the 8-scale stuff, but I have the carbon diff cases, the front and rear arms, the rear hubs, and the center splines. So all that stuff, I believe I waived it when we were doing the pre-production run. I want to say 12 to 18 grams, depending on give or take. So it does save weight. It's lighter. It's a little bit more rigid. It's stiffer, like the hard parts. And as far as they're pretty strong, given that they are considered a carbon hard material. So I was pretty stoked when I did it. I definitely saved a lot of weight in the car, which I thought performed dramatically better. And as far as the flex stuff goes with the arms, I definitely agree that it's pretty awesome. So I run it in my two-wheel drive too, the rear arms and the front arms in the carbon material, and been loving it. So going off that, I think for those who have not tried it, give it a try. And I know for those who are running the B74 that are always trying to look to shed some weight, 15 grams goes a long ways. That's a good percentage of the car. Yeah. I also want to touch bases on with the V74, the center spline stiffeners, the plates that you can buy and that we offer. The G10 plates comes with the car, and I think that is a good baseline to start with. For those who are running on really high grip tracks that you would say that your car wants the 3-wheel, 2-wheel, your specifically your 4-wheel drive car, I would definitely recommend ordering the 2mm carbon plates, or even the 2mm cut ones that have the flex in it. The stiffer you make the center of the chassis, it kind of would not spring as much weight over onto the loaded or to the unloaded tire to like pick up if like you're 3-wheeling, the car picks up. This, when you have those center splines that are stiffer, it actually brings the unloaded tire back down to the ground, so it stays much flatter, and can give more drivability going around the track. So definitely recommend checking that out. I've been running the G10 material plates, but when I was out there testing, I was talking back to my team guys, and they recommend trying the 2 millimeter carbon plates with all the screws in it. So I'm starting with my car with that to go around hobby action. Probably won't exactly go back and forth, knowing that because the track at hobby action versus the track at the nationals is going to be at. I know the difference in traction at hobby action. I look for steering. I like looking for steering, the way that the traction is at hobby action, my local track. The front end doesn't make as much traction. The rear always has more traction than the front. So I'm always trying to make the front end steer more for more corner speed. But for some other tracks, track already has tons of traction. And for whatever reason, when that happens, the front end always has more traction than the rear. So you're always like trying to get more rear traction than the front, or make the front number than the rear. So that's kind of how I look at it. But yeah, we can go through some questions. That has been my little kind of rant going on with that. I do have another big surprise with another sponsor that released a new product that I'm pretty excited for. Let's go through some of these questions. We have some people in here from the UK. Matthew, we did talk about the F2 body and the S2. Or excuse me, the S2 and the F2. The S2 body I normally run on carpet. That's kind of like pretty standard. But I wouldn't be surprised if the P2 body would be very good on carpet. Ricky Weibo's in the house. Jordan, Alex. Got some good stuff going in. Chris is asking, what do you find the most challenging with 1/8 scale off-road? I think the most challenging thing that you face racing 8 scale is the constant change of the track. I think the people that have a lot of success running 8 scale came from a lot of experience in running, knowing that the track's always changing and evolving. You'll never see the track the same twice. And I think that's still something that I'm going to be learning for the next however many years I'm going to be racing. And I think that's definitely the most challenging part, is figuring out different lines, different tires to run, adjusting to the traction level with diff oils and shock oils, bumps, evolving, just stuff like that. I would say that's the most challenging. But it's a catch-22. That's what also makes it more interesting for the driver, because it's just always new, and I think it brings a lot of adversity to the program, trying to get things kind of trying to figure out who can figure it out the quickest, who can I feel like there's some drivers out there that kind of can come out swinging and they're good the whole time, or some that it takes some time to evolve, learn the track, figure it out, make some small tuning adjustments. Then you're like going to the semi, then you're in the main, and the main you're kind of peaked out. That's kind of seemed like how I've always been, and like a guy like Cavallari. So yeah, I think that's been pretty awesome. Is it worth updating all the arms, the Wentzko buggy, which are the HD arms with the HD inserts also? I definitely think for the 8 scale, you for sure want the HD arm plates and the arms, or excuse me, the HD arms. And then I definitely think the arm plates, it's kind of, I would for sure just start with the plates that come with the arms. But as far as the material goes, I think it's very important. They don't warp, they don't sag when your cars are driving. They're very durable, and I think it's a better material. RJ is asking, do you know when the RC8 T3.2 is going to be available again in Europe? That I have no idea about. I do know that we've been, a lot of the RC industries have been having a hard time getting inventory. So I know for sure the guys back at the shop are doing everything they can to get the parts that you see out of stock to be back in stock. So I mean, trust me, they want to sell you the kit. They want to get the kits out. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of things going on with the economy, with trying to get things shipped from overseas and getting it into stores and stuff like that. So definitely out of their hands. Eric's in the house. Sam, Tanner Steves. What's up, brother? Got a lot of people coming in. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys appreciate the video, please give a thumbs up. Like the video, and if you haven't already, it'd be awesome to share it to your buddies that can see it later, or tag them. That would be awesome. It only helps out my channel and you guys getting it out to as many people as possible. So obviously, I talked about it earlier. The next event that I got coming up is the 10 scale nationals. It's going to be at Mimi's track in Maryland. And I think it's going to be awesome. We were there several years ago. They redid the track of how it's orientated. The track is a little bit bigger than it was when they had the nationals previously, which is awesome. I think the track's still gonna be fast, 13 or 14-second lap times, but I'm pretty excited. The Mimi, the owner there, she's so passionate about the hobby. She has great communication skills with people, trying to make sure that they're taken care of, and she has a lot of ambition to make sure people are having a good time. And I think for the nationals it'll be good. I'm not really sure how the pitting is going to be in there, but I'm looking forward for the hospitality for that weekend. So AJ Marasco is asking, have you been running the 2mm pistons on dirt? AJ, I have not been running the 2mm pistons. For some reason, I've been pretty happy with the shock pistons that the standard machine ones, the thicker, like the standard thickness. When I was over there in Florida, Paul showed me one of your setup sheets from New Red. I saw that you had them in there, but for how I'm setting up my car with the drilling the holes to different sizes, I definitely think that definitely a possibility that when the pistons, the thinner the piston is, the less pack that you have, so you don't really need to make the hole as big. So Charlie's asking, how far are you from hobby action? I was on vacation in Arizona a few weeks ago after the INS race, and I swung by. It was cool to see. Yeah, Charlie, I'm about 45 minutes from hobby action. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Scott, yeah. So the part number for the Savox servo is the SB2262SG. It's they call it the Monster brand shorty servo. Yeah. So after the nationals, I believe we have Surf City at OCRC. I see people are asking if I'm going to be going to the Wicked Weekend this year. I am not going to be going. That is the week before the 10 scale nationals. So I'm going to be prepping and preparing and taking a couple of days off before that long week. So, but I will be going to like the Southern Nationals, the AMS, throughout the year, and I might make my way out there to Georgia too. Do some club racing at Loganville maybe, and maybe do one of the races out there in Savannah, the SOS series. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to be planning to do, but there's definitely a lot of races still left in the year. Basically, it's going to be pretty scheduled. Like this week, I got four-wheel drive car to build. I'm going to build a new two-wheel drive car and a new short course for the Nationals. So tips for less steering on the B74.1 on turf. I've tried a stiffer spring on the front, also a stiffer sway bar. Would my next bet be to move the rear arms or hubs forward? Yeah, David. There's definitely a fine balance with the stiffer spring and stiffer bars for the front. Sometimes when it's too stiff on AstroTurf or carpet, it actually forces more load on the tire, which could actually grip the AstroTurf more. So definitely keep that in mind. I definitely think those things do help with taking away steering, but for whatever reason on carpet and AstroTurf, the those things could actually do the opposite effect. But yes, moving the arms forward or the hubs forward definitely is a good compromise, which is kind of what I did at the test track that I was running at. Also to keep in mind, you can lean in the rear shocks on your four-wheel drive car. Mine, this kind of helps. Leaning in the shocks kind of helps with less off-power steering. So when you go the endless sweeper and you're like neutral and you turn, the car won't hook. It will kind of just like be more fluid. But that stuff can kind of take away some corner speed. So, man, this fly is really like angry at me. But yeah, definitely try that for your carpet car. I saw you marshalling for Thelke on his class. Did you run as fast to flip his car, truck, or everyone else? You're asking if I marshal people faster for people that I know more than others? No, I try to marshal. I want to marshal the same for everyone. I want as much as I want to be treated. So that's kind of how I go about doing that. But this freaking fly. It's going to be so funny on your guys' end watching me swat this fly over. But yeah. So I wanted to show you a new item that came from Futaba. For those who are maybe in the market looking for a new radio or is already a Futaba fan, we are going to be releasing a new radio edition. I'm not sure exactly the name, but it's based off a US edition radio. It has some inspiration from myself and Adam Drake on some things that we wanted a little bit updated on, a revised version. So not only it has United States kind of theme to some of the plastic carbon parts, which is pretty cool. You can see it's like American flag on the bottom battery thing, battery cover, and on the side right here, this all has the same kind of print, American flag, and also on the back. To add to this, it also has updated springs, throttle and steering spring to what I would consider more universal here in the United States. The Futaba radio that they currently sold had pretty thin springs, so I had to go in and kind of tighten them a lot, probably lock them down. And compared to like the other brands on the market, so this has already updated springs to more in common for the consumer here in the United States. For those that were in Asia, they kind of prefer more thinner springs. So now that I feel like Adam Drake and I have kind of told them some things to work on, they did it. They are super awesome of a company to work with, and I'm super pumped to have this new radio. It should be releasing here pretty soon, so keep an eye on Futaba USA's website, and then once it starts hitting distributors and dealers, you'll definitely see it on there. So as far as internal features and stuff like that, it's going to be functionality is going to be the same as the 7PXR. Other than that, it's just an updated theme, has updated springs for the throttle and steering. So if you're already on the cusp of getting a new radio, definitely wait to check out the new Futaba 7PXR US edition is, I'm going to go ahead and call it, it's official. That's what I'm going to be calling it. Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about that. GT is asking why the ProTech carbon side guards. Well, the ProTech carbon side guards are significantly lighter than the standard side guards in the kit. The B74, I would say, is a little bit more on the heavier side. Buying the side guards, you definitely save a ton of weight. I would consider a ton of weight. So I got mine from Man Hobbies, so maybe your local track might have those for sale. They're pretty sweet. They don't. I haven't had any issues with them breaking, but as far as durability goes, I'm pretty confident that they'll last forever. Obviously, if you want new ones so they don't look scratched, then that's a different story. I run them in my 8-scale car too. I believe Mayfield runs the carbon side rails on his 8-scale buggies. And I asked him the other day on the phone, I'm like, are you going to run your carbon side rails on your Yokomo car? And he was like, we don't make them for Yokomo, or else I would. So Adam Peterson's in the house. I got to go turn on this fan. I'll be right back. So yeah, so people were asking about my standard short chassis versus long chassis. As you can see, Brent commented that my standard setup uses the B6.3 dirt chassis, which is the shorter one of the two. So I can probably do a revised setup sheet. I can get with Brent at some point today or tomorrow of my 0.3 setup sheet. But for a good one that right now to kind of start with, I know Aiden Horns has a pretty good setup sheet that's posted on rc10.com. And like a Dustin Evans setup sheet. And I believe there's a Cole Tollard one with 0.3 rear end stuff. So there's definitely some good options. I definitely think the traction just really depends. Like I said earlier, the 0.2 rear end versus the 0.3. We're not going to go off by that anymore. Basically, you can get the same exact settings from the 0.2 car on the 0.3. We did that for a reason. They're considered option parts. They're on the long arm versus the short arm. I can't tell you that the long arm is way better than the short. I can't tell you the short's way better than the long. We basically did the 0.3 car with the short chassis, the short arm, the wide pivot, because we think that that's the best overall package for the variety tracks that are out there on the market. So with that said, you can easily order the 75 arms, readjust the pivot width, and get the same settings that you were with your previous car generation. When would I run a 73 and 75 rear arms? I mean, it just depends. It's all about feel. If I feel that the rear end, no matter how much traction or bumps are on the track, I would say I would run the longer arm if it tracks like pretty bumpy feeling, or so like a lot of uneven surfaces. I've also been different where I've ran the shorter arms on those surfaces and it's been really good. So it's definitely gonna be a personal decision. It's kind of been a catch-22 since we've released all these options and settings, people are confused on what to do. People have asked us we need more settings, and then when we provide you guys more settings, people think there's too much. So I would just try to stick with what you got from the kit, work off that. If you feel like the rear end's kind of funky feeling, try a softer rear spring or a longer rear link, and kind of go from there. Yeah. So Chris, or excuse me, trying to find your comment. Can you tell me the difference between raising or lowering the inner camber link to raising the lowering the outer camber link? Yeah, basically when lowering the inner camber link is like raising the outer camber link. When you do that, it raises the roll center, which means it makes the car a little bit stiffer and could help with more on power steering. It just throws more weight to the front, makes it more rigid, throws more weight to the front. And then if you by raising the inner or lowering the outer, that is lowering the roll center, which means there'll be more weight transfer to the back and less to the front. So typically, could have more most of the story. You could have more rear grip, and less front grip. What's up, man? Yes, I would definitely recommend going to Hobby Action. It's only if he's only 10 minutes away. It's definitely one of the best tracks in the country. So definitely check that out. So we have someone that just said, Kevin, would a newbie benefit upgrading from a 0.2 to the 0.3 or stick with the 0.2? Kevin, I don't want to be a salesman here. I don't think that I'm not going to tell you if you went to the 0.3 car, you're going to be a 10 times better driver. But what I will say is we updated to the 0.3 car because we wanted the car to be better out of the box for a number of different track surfaces out there in the country. I think that if you're truly a newbie and you're trying to learn, I would just learn with the basics with the car maybe you have now. And then when you feel comfortable where you want to start really trying to make a difference, then I would say go ahead and get the 0.3 car. And then you'll probably get that built and try both. And I think you're going to see a pretty huge increase in performance. But like you said, you being a newbie, I don't really think you need to go all out. I think it's best just to learn the basics of, working on the car, building it, breaking some parts, putting it back together, figuring out the tires. But if you kind of feel like you're kind of got that stuff pretty dialed in, I think then maybe for sure go ahead and get the 0.3 car. So I don't want to sit here and tell you, yeah, the 0.3 car, if you get that, you're going to be way better off. I'm pretty a realistic person. I think that's the honest answer. And hopefully that you appreciate that. So how different were the tracks you won the IFMAR championships at Utah versus the Hoodie? Well, I mean, one was on AstroTurf, one was on the loosest dirt in the world. So I would consider that literally an opposite different spectrums. So as far as the hospitality goes, it was great to see those different tracks. The people there were awesome in both places. So boom, boom. Kevin, yeah, man, I appreciate you tuning in too. If you have any questions, I'm not sure where your local track is, but if you feel like that you're ready to move up and get things dialed in, then don't be afraid to hesitate to do it because everything does make a difference, and I think it's best to learn with with what you got and kind of make some progress going forward. So. You have Damon Borkowitz in the house. What's up, dude? Haven't seen you in forever. We're the original OGs. For those who don't know, they used to call us the Muppets. I think Brent named us that. At Chico, we had some incredible battles. So it looks like you're kind of getting back into it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you out there on the track. So, Yeah. Yeah, so Kevin, yeah, OCRC. So there's definitely some locals there that you could talk to for sure about the car. You know, Jackie, the guy that works in the shop, is a cool dude. He can help you with anything. Kevin, I like your practice videos you made about pace. Yeah, I do plan on doing some more YouTube videos. You know, I kind of started to do the YouTube videos more when COVID stuff happened. There was just a lot more time. I wish I want to get in a better routine of setting some time to get some cool videos out for you guys on there. I have a lot of footage in my USB cards to post. I just got to go in and edit them. There's some that I've done that I need to go back because I've learned to do things a different way. So, yeah. For those who have any questions that are still in the chat, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Looks like we had like 140 viewers was the highest that we saw for a while. So we've been hovering around 100 or so, which has been awesome. So thank you guys so much. Yeah, we're talking about the chassis lengths. Kind of do a quick review. We're talking about the 0.3 rear end stuff that we've been running, a little bit longer rear link, softer spring, the P2 body. I feel like is going to be a new standard from JConcepts. We had a new servo that Savox just came out with. The SB2262XG had a new Futaba radio that's going to be releasing here soon, a US edition radio with updated steering and throttle spring. And I kind of been still building my roller B74.1. My JC turnbuckles come in today in the mail, so I've been waiting by the door all morning for it to come so I can finish this, start building that up. On my work table, I have my center diff I've been waiting to fill. I have 500K in this bad boy, so it is 100. It's like 100 and something degrees outside, so I put this outside with the oil because it's so thick to kind of let the gravity do its justice, so I can make the oil a little bit thinner to get in those little crevices. So yeah, I've thought about doing that, getting a video person, a social media guy, but it's tough. You know, I to pay them and the traveling, how much traveling we do, but yeah, it's not a bad idea. Chris, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you watching. Definitely keep in mind that if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And yeah, so kind of wrap up some questions here, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Any news on when the 110 scale silver lips will be regularly available again? Aaron, that's been a super high demanding tire and compound. I was just in Florida. You can ask them on their page or call them, and they will tell you an estimated time. But when you see them at a local hobby shop or online, you just have to order them. They've been going so fast. HT +1 steering plates for the T6.2 as well. Yeah, I would actually recommend trying it on both. Like anything with like the short course, stadium truck, and all that stuff kind of applies with the same. So, I'm not familiar with the Protec servo, Charlie, on the Protec 160 TBI. But yeah. I'm trying to go over some questions to see if there was anything that I missed, but well, anyways, guys, I think we are going to wrap things up. I'm gonna go back, finish some building, and probably get some setup sheets of kind of latest running that I've been doing. But I will be at the 10 scale Roar Nationals at the end of August. I'll be at Hobby Action this weekend doing a Pride Club race there Saturday, and see some of the locals there. I'll also be going to the Surf City event and Southern Nationals. So definitely keep an eye out. If you see me, don't hesitate to come up and ask. We'll have some fun, race it out, and looking forward to getting back out there. So appreciate you guys tuning in. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send me a message, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.